Hello, everyone. Good morning. We've never done the morning show before. This is the first actually for us to drum. I'm really excited about it. It's now nearly 10:15 in the morning here in the UK, which means it's 5:15 in the afternoon in the Philippines, in Manila. I hope some of you are just relaxing on a Sunday and watching us live. Anyways, I'm not going to do a long introduction because I wanted to ask so many questions to our guest, and we don't really have a lot of time today, being a morning show. But anyways, he's here now, my dear friends. Please welcome Chris Musto. Yay!
Morning.
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
I'm fine. Yeah, I'm good. I'm just getting it together this morning, really.
Yeah.
Should have
I'm
gone for
sorry
an
for
afternoon.
I'm sorry for asking you too early on a Sunday, but yeah, because I do record fairs on a Sunday. I mean, not all Sundays, but sometimes I do. So
Oh dear.
yeah. so, so after this one, I'm gonna dash off to Wally Range in Manchester to do the record fair. But anyway, I'm really glad. I'm really glad that you said yes to Ask the Drummer. How are you since the gig in Stockport?
Oh, fine. We had 6 dates after that, and that was our first show you saw us at there. So yeah,
Yeah,
we had six, and they all went well. We didn't have any issues at all,
yeah,
and
yeah.
um, yeah, they were lots of fun actually. And of course, we finished that, and Glenn's gone off to be a Sex Pistol now for a while.
Oh, well, thank you for coming to Stockport. That's the first time I've been to Holy Diver. I think it's a
Yeah.
new venue. It's a brilliant venue. I really love that place.
Yeah, it was really good. The guys were guys and girls were very cool.
Yeah,
They're really enthusiastic. It's fairly recent. They've opened it, I think, last November or something like that. They said,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I'm really, and it's got this relaxed atmosphere as well. I mean, they're not too strict about, if you want to see the stars like yourself and Glen Matlock. It's so easy. You just hang around a bit, and
yeah,
then
that's right. I mean, there's the normal amount of security, isn't there, to stop people just wandering in dressing rooms and things like that. You don't
yeah.
necessarily need to see people getting changed anyway, do you know? So.
When are you coming back to Stockport?
I've got no idea at the moment. I mean, we're on a hold until Glenn's finished the Sex Pistols
All right.
stuff, which will be probably about end of September, October.
And then you'll do
Yeah,
another tour.
yeah, they will. Glenn's very keen on maintaining his solo career, as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
That's important to him. So he's just as happy doing that as well. So not saying it all comes to a halt until he gets back. He's got other
Yeah,
projects, but the shows with that group, that group's a kind of permanent,
that's brilliant.
thing,
Yeah,
really. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well, Aiden wrote says sound and picture a-okay. Aiden is tech support at Ask the Drummer, so that's really good.
Oh,
Anyway, so welcome to Ask the Drummer. Episode 172 is all about you, Chris Musto.
oh dear.
I did pronounce your name right, Musto.
Yeah, yeah, that's
It's
right.
it's it's an unusual name, though. I mean, where are the Mustos from?
Well, there's options. We've either got it's as a name, it's Anglo-Saxon name, or it's an Italian name. And as far as I understand, my side of it comes from Napoli,
Oh,
so
right.
Naples, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all down to a ancient relative going over there, press ganged onto a ship, but and he escaped and met a girl, changed his name. He was an O'Donnell, and so it was an Irish name. And then he changed his name to Musto because that was his girlfriend's name, and to avoid being, press ganged into the navy.
Oh,
And that is the tale. That's the romantic tale. That's the one I like to stick with. Uh,
yeah.
um, and basically that's what it is. I know I've got a removed cousin who started the clothing company, which is quite a famous. doing skiing and yachting.
Yeah.
But his, say, way distant cousin sort of thing, so there you go.
So have you been to Naples and looked for some relatives there?
No, I've been to Naples, but to be quite honest, I don't need to go looking for relatives. They're usually more trouble than they're worth,
Yeah. Well, are you from a musical family?
No, no,
Oh.
no, I'm not actually. That's probably why I play drums. I'm joking. No, my dad was a technical director in the Rank organisation, which is I think they've done now, but he worked on radar systems and things like that in the Air Force in the Second World War, and he came out of that working in developing all sorts of things. They worked on the first electronic doorways for airports and things like that. So he was a technical guy.
Yeah.
Into jazz. He was into jazz, and of course, when I was growing up and getting into, like bands and going to see groups when I was 14 and 15.
Yeah.
I was trying to teach him about, what I was into, which was
punk maybe.
Well, it was, I'm getting older, so I mean, it would have been, that time would have been around 1970, so I was then getting into Hendrix and all this sort of stuff, and he was teaching me about Duke Ellington and like, sort of Count Basie and the big bands and that sort of thing, so we sort of trade off a bit, and he'd never ever turn around to me and say, "God, Chris, that's rubbish. What are you listening to that for?" He'd go, "Yeah, that's interesting, but have a listen to this."
Yeah.
Interest, So I got, encouragement, and he bought my first drum kit.
Have you always been drawn to the drums, or did you try and learn other?
Oh, I tried other things, but I was just dreadful. I mean, my parents would have probably liked me to play violin or something like that, and I think I did some lessons, and I just didn't. Let's put it politely, I didn't take to it, so yeah. And then
did you have drumming lessons?
Sorry?
Did you have drumming lessons, like proper drumming lessons, or did you just teach yourself?
Yeah, I had some, which were, but what you can imagine, I was 14, and I just wanted to kind of be in a band, and everything I was trying to copy things that I was listening to, which I was kind of not really able to do, because what I was listening to then was, quite complex. And then I did a few lessons, and then I thought, okay, I just need to work with people, and and I found a couple of like-minded. I had some, we were all into music at that time in school, and we met an older guitar player, and I formed a little 3-piece band when I was 15, and we started playing kind of blues music, because I suppose a lot of the groups then were, if you think of that time, a lot of the young musicians were coming out of the jazz, they were listening to jazz, because you're looking at, the kind of late 60s, early 70s. So influences are very different, So I formed like a kind of blues band, but not like, but we were trying to be a bit more forward thinking. I don't know. We were probably terrible, but I mean, but that's what we did, and that kind of propelled me into just kind of teaching myself, really,
Yeah. Did you have a name for that first band?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. They were called Benjamin Franklin's Electric Storm Machine.
Oh, wow. It's quite a long Benjamin.
Yeah, I know.
So how did you come up with that? How did you come up with that name?
Honestly, I don't know. You know, we sort of kicking up things around, sitting around, and you know, as you do, and
Yeah,
we thought of Benjamin Franklin, has been U.S. president and that,
yeah.
and then we thought there was some story about you know um, it was almost Nikola Tesla related kind of
All
story,
right.
and we thought, yeah, let's amalgamate this and turn it. Someone probably knows more about that reason than I can remember now. But anyway, we did that, and we only did I don't know, a handful of shows. Probably the first one, the Church Hall, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
still got the ticket actually for it that we issued. It was like
Wow.
it was like
Are you still in
15p or
touch?
something.
Are
Huh?
you still in touch with your bandmates? Are
Well,
they still around?
no, I'm not actually. One of them
Oh,
passed away. Actually, the older one, the guitarist, he actually died a few years
oh
ago,
no. Oh, sorry to hear that.
and the other guy was interesting. He was a bass player, a guy called Andy Cole, and I lost touch with him actually. But his dad was in a stage show, which is really contentious these days. His dad was in a stage show called the Black and White Minstrels.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Have you heard it? Have you
Yeah.
heard it? Yeah. And he
Don't
was
have those now.
he was one of the three lead singers of the Black and White,
Oh, I see. Okay.
and he was like really popular, and it was just a strange time, and that was kind of normal TV
Yeah.
at the time,
Yeah.
wasn't it was popular television on
Yeah.
Sundays
It
or
was
whatever.
accepted in those days.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. You actually kind of look at that these days, and it's just hair raising.
And then, yeah.
It really is. Goodness knows how they got away with it, but they did for years. And anyway, Andy rebelled against his father. Let's put it like that.
All right. Yeah.
He obviously accepted that his dad was making decent money and they had a nice house.
Yeah.
But Andy was a proper full-on hippie, and
Oh,
yeah, we stopped. I think after I kind of left the confines of home and started living, on my own.
yeah.
Then we
Yeah.
lost touch. So there we
Oh,
go.
is it true that you auditioned for the Clash?
Oh, blimey, that's jumping. Yes, I did. Yeah.
Oh, is that sort of like a leap forward, or did you have any other bands before that, or
Yeah, I was.
Benjamin Franklin one?
Yeah, I mean, I was just. I went to live in Germany. Right, I lived in Berlin for 10 months or so in 1977. I was beforehand. I was working in some of my work is design work and doing record covers. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I worked for a company that went bankrupt, and then I moved. I thought that's enough, and I went to move to Berlin, and that would have been 1976 to 77. I played drums in a transvestite, what was it called, a transvestite show at the time. It was a glam kind of, like old
All
style
right. Yeah,
drag show, and which was interesting. It was we were just a little 3 or 4 piece at times backing band for these, I can't
wow.
really say, as I say at the time,
Yeah,
it was transvestite stuff, and that was interesting. We were like, all I had to wear was a glittery suit, and that was. I came back from Germany one cold winter, and I was walking around in a leather jacket, freezing in November, and I wasn't really appropriately dressed. And I thought, that's it. I'm coming back to England. I don't know. And I heard that the I can't remember what month. I have no idea now. The Clash were looking for a drummer,
right.
and I went along to see them at their rehearsal rooms in Camden,
Yeah.
and I got on well. All they were really interested in, I remember Bernie Rhodes, their manager, and Joe asking me. It was almost like grilling me about my politics and what Germany and things like that, because it was all,
Oh,
because I
you know,
suppose it was quite interesting.
yeah.
Berlin was kind of, this kind of had this,
Berlin, especially in the 70s.
yeah, yeah, it had this sort of romance attached to it because Bowie was recording there and all that sort of stuff famously. And so I don't know whether they kind of were more interested in that than they were my playing, but I had two auditions actually. I did one thing and they said, "Oh, come on, let's go, let's do this again."
Yeah.
And I did, and obviously I didn't get the audition, but I think there was a lot of exaggeration about how many drummers they actually went through. It's they auditioned quite a few, but probably like everything, like when people exaggerate, they say, "Oh, I saw the Sex Pistols at the 100 Club." If
Yeah,
if
that's right.
everybody had said that, there would have been about 45,000 people there.
It's the same when they did the show at the Lesser Free Trade Hall in Manchester. A lot of people are saying that they were there, but
Yeah,
actually there were only 40 people. That's all like,
fantastic. Yeah, exactly. It's, these things end up being some sort of folklore.
yeah.
Um,
Well, of
but
course, Joe Strummer. I mean, he's the one who famously said. I thought it was the Jesus and Mary Chain drummer, but Bobby Gillespie. But actually, I was corrected and said it was Joe Strummer who said the band is only as good as its drummer.
yeah, yeah, I mean, I agree with him.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, you can have a great band, but if the drummer's all over the place, it just doesn't help the songs. And a drummer, effectively, I think, in a way, is a songwriter as well, because they create the mood of the song. And what the Clash got out of that was Topper, who was perfect, really was. I mean, they got the right drummer out of that.
Yeah.
And I always say, well, yeah, I think at the time I was probably disappointed that I didn't get it, but really they got the right person.
Do you
And
know Topper Heaton? Do you
hmm?
know him? Do you know Topper Heaton or
I've met him a few times. I mean, the Clash guys, I do stay in touch with, because I mentioned before, as a designer as well, right?
yeah, yeah,
I've done all the Clash's design work since 2012 with
yeah, yeah,
my colleague Gordon McHarg, and so obviously we liaise with Paul, with Mick. Topper doesn't really have any part of that, to be honest. It's more Mick and Paul and their management and that side of things. And
yeah,
if Joe had been alive still, it would have been him. He was a friend. I mean, we worked together on a film called Sid and Nancy, and I did the drums on that album. I think we did 5 tracks or so. So we got together, and I think I was doing a session for a West London country and Welsh country and Western singer, and called Ray Jones, and Joe was producing it, and he said, "Oh, I really want you to come and play on these tracks I'm doing for this film." So I went and did the Sid and Nancy, Love Kills, and those sort of things with
yeah.
Joe, and he turned into really
Is
good.
that the film with Gary Oldman?
Yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah, exactly. So we had fun doing that, and great fun when we went to do down in Spain to do the video for that
Yeah,
single and all that sort of. Gary was hilarious. He was
yeah.
brilliant. It was great, he's turned into one of the greatest actors of our generation, I think.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you about being a designer because when I looked you up, and
Mm,
especially on Discogs, all these album sleeves. So
mm,
like, it's that you've designed and everything. I
mm.
mean, there's so many of them. Your involvement with the Clash and everything.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna leave it until closer to the end, but I'm glad that you mentioned it because one of the things that really struck me is the Teletubbies. Apparently, there's a sleeve, an album sleeve, and it's a lenticular one or something. So
Yeah.
how,
How did you find that? I'd never used it myself
how
before.
did you get involved with the Teletubbies?
Um, that's a really good question. Yeah, I know it's a funny one, isn't it? We did we I was doing some designing on lenticular images, right, where we were developing the 3D postcard
Yeah.
into frames of video, and it really moved on. And working with a guy called Chris Levine, and Chris Levine has had a company called IC Holographic at the time, and Chris famously recently did the holographic portrait of the Queen. You've
Oh,
probably seen it. It's quite a famous image, and he actually went to shoot the Queen, Queen Elizabeth, and he used an image of her with her eyes shut, which is quite a phenomenal portrait, I think.
yeah.
Actually quite soulful. Anyway, we we were doing some lenticulars for I think we did Terminator 2 and something for The Cure and The Levelers and a band called Garbage. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and then for some reason the two people who did the Teletubbies got hold of us, and then we ended up doing this special photo shoot. Had to go up to Stratford where they were doing their filming. They had their
Yeah.
own bit of land there
Yeah.
before it was CGI'd, and actually got them doing a little dance, and it was hilarious. Got there, and what's the purple one called? Tinky Winky, right? And Tinky Wink, it was about really astonished. The first thing I thought, it was about 7 feet tall with his aerial, and all that kind of thing. And my first thing, I looked up at him, like, good God. It was really funny. So he got them doing this little kind of knee dance thing, sort of swapping hands over knees.
Yeah.
And there you go. And we just ended up being the cover for their CD,
That's amazing.
and a cassette, I think we did as well. No vinyl at the time,
No, no. Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was funny because my partner and I, we just moved into this house where I'm now,
Yeah.
and it was a mess. The house was all upside down. It was stripped out, and like we were living in one room, and she was working on EastEnders because she's a costume maker, and she was doing a very famous wedding dress for EastEnders, and I was doing the Teletubbies in our little house, and it was like proper cottage industry. That was funny. There it goes.
That's absolutely amazing. I mean, it's really impressive. All these album sleeves and your
No,
collection and everything.
no, it
And
does
going
go
back,
back. Yeah, it goes back to the 70s. Working with
yeah.
Queen, I've done stuff with the Stones, and you're yeah, yes, it's
Have you got a favorite album sleeve that you've designed?
no, I
You
don't.
like them?
I don't really. No, I don't like all of them. Some of them are, some of them were jobs, really, And
Oh,
I've
yeah.
probably done. I can't think. Well, probably about 1,600 upwards. Maybe so it's a lot. Um,
Wow.
but I don't really have
A
an
favorite
absolute
one.
favourite. I've got people I like working with.
Yeah.
And those people will be, not the sort of huge, because obviously when we did Queen, I worked on an album called Jazz, which I did, and an album News of the World, which is the We Are the Champions album.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's nice thinking. Oh, I was talking with, talk to Freddie, and when we worked with the Stones, I was talking to Charlie, and and he's of course one of my huge heroes anyway. So it's like I was kind of beside myself, really.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they were the creative people behind the groups, Freddie and Queen and
Yeah.
Charlie, Mick and Charlie, but Charlie hugely with the Stones.
Do you
Um,
get starstruck when you meet this, like the
um,
big
so
stars?
an immediate nerve, because I think there was a sleeve we were working on years back. It was an album called London Town, I think, for
Oh,
Wings,
the wings. Yeah. Oh my
And
god. I've got that.
oh right, yeah. So I do I get more starstruck with because they're almost beyond being starstruck too. They're so elevated in a sense because they're so famous. And the people that I find, you know, I just really hugely respect are kind of, you know, lesser famous people actually, but
Yeah.
then I go, God, these people are brilliant. They're geniuses, you know, and I love working at that level as well because you're
Yeah.
much more interactive. You're not really trying to prove anything. I mean, when we did Steel Wheels, right, for the Stones in 1989, I think they ended up doing about 99 designs for that. They were all
Whoa.
generations, you know, so one thing led to another, and then we kind of go, nah, try a different direction. So you go in a different way. And, you know, that's actually just really hard work. And,
Wow.
you know, but it's nice when you develop an idea which just nurtures and you don't spend months doing it, you know, you spend like, you know,
Yeah.
days
Yeah.
and then it develops really quickly and then you find it. And that's what I like doing, you know. Um, so at the
I'm
moment,
just,
you know,
yeah, I'm just sort of like, how do you divide your time being a drummer and then a designer as well? Or does
well,
it just sort of like go
I've
hand in
always
hand?
have, yeah, I always have done. My dad always said to me, "Oh, you want to be a drummer? Well, get a proper job." You know, and I mean, he was right. He was definitely right. But you know, I think I've just managed to balance the time. I mean, at that time when we were working on the Stones stuff in 1989, for example, you know, I was also on the road with Johnny Thunders, you know, and you know, I spent 4 years with him, so I
Yeah.
managed to balance out what you know I was doing in both aspects, you know, and then of course they get me on the design side. I mean, Johnny did that to me. Said, "Oh, you do design work. I want to put this out," you know. So then I end up doing the sleeve, and then I don't, you know. And the same with Glenn. You know, I do Glenn's design work. I did,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, like the last album, the album before, and
Yeah.
two albums previous to that as well. You know, so they get me on both professions, and it kind of works.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
I
it's
mean, it's good for them as well. They don't have to ask for a
yeah,
design because
yeah,
you
it's
figure it out.
handy. It's definitely handy. You know,
Yeah.
who can we get? Who can we get to do all that? Yeah, oh, yeah, he's sitting next to me.
Yeah. Well, going back to your drumming
Yeah,
career,
yeah.
the first one that I've seen is actually the Subterraneans. I think
Oh,
that's is that after Benjamin Franklin and
yeah, it's way up. Yeah,
is it-
yeah, it's way after that. I mean, I
oh, way
couldn't
after
remember
that, yeah, yeah.
what year was the Subterraneans. That would have been about. It was around about 1980, wasn't it? I think. I mean, you probably
Yeah.
know if you look. Maybe 79, 80. I mean, I started working with this. I don't know. The Subterraneans is quite interesting, really, because it was the New Musical Express journalist Nick Kent, who is a fantastic writer. You
Yeah.
know, and he's still around. I would say I saw him at a funeral in Paris recently. Unfortunately, a funeral. You know, but um, he had a whole load of songs. And though I went, hey, these are really good songs, you know, and he wasn't really known for writing songs as such, you know.
Oh, I see, because it's a
And then
journalist.
it was
Yeah.
more as a writer, you know.
Yeah.
And we got together in this rehearsal place and we put various incarnations of the group together. Ended up with a manager called Jake Riviera, who was looking after Elvis Costello and, you know, Nick Lowe and people like that. Got us in the studio, which was Nick Lowe's studio, which was in Shepherd's Bush at the time, which was old Tony Visconti's old studio, to record this one single, which was the first single on a label called Demon, which Demon actually, you know, developed into quite a big label.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot, you know. And we put out this song, My Flamingo, which is a fantastic song, and it was in Elvis Costello's top 10 singles at the time. You know, he loved it. And we did one show, that's it, and then we thought we'd put a. Well, we didn't. We had this really good group at the time because I'd been working. Well, my friend was a guy called Henry Padovani, I was in this group called the Flying Padovanis.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And Henry, I drafted into the Subterraneans, and also Glen. So we had Glen as a bass player. So we had this theoretical, quite interesting group. Because Henry was a very stylized guitar player, you know, and Glen, of course, and myself, and you know, I had a lot of photos done, and Penny Smith did the whole session and all this kind of thing. We thought, yeah, this is interesting. And then Nick just kind of completely, I don't know, I think he got the nerves or something, and then just nothing happened. And it was a real shame. I got some quite good recordings, you know, I do have some quite good recordings that we did, and nothing's ever happened with them, apart from that single.
Is he still around? Are you
He's
still
living in Paris? Yeah, he lives in Paris.
Yeah.
So I went over to his funeral at Père Lachaise Cemetery, and he was there.
Right.
But
well, talking of Glen Matlock, because I've also found out that there's another band that you're in with Glen Matlock called the Screwballs. So this is after Subterraneans, or
well, that's not really. Yeah, the Screwballs wasn't really a proper group. I'll tell you what that was, right? And when, you know, I used to play with Johnny Thunders, you know, I joined him in 1986, and I was still there when he died in 1991. You know, I wasn't doing little gigs in America with him because that was all too problematic. Actually, saying that, we did tours in America, proper tours. But when he did the old one-off gig in New York, I wasn't. He picked up someone to do that. But that turned into a band called the Oddballs. Right. So the last 2 years with Johnny was the Oddballs. When I did a tribute album for Johnny after he died, right? Yeah. Then, which incidentally I'm re-releasing as a vinyl release later this year.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's a really interesting record because we got the guys from the New York Dolls, you know, Joe Hansen, Sylvain, you know, and Arthur Kane, and we got Wayne Kramer, and you know, you know, a fantastic lineup of people on it. You know, Mark Armand. I've just got the Waterboys have just contributed a new track. Mike has done a new track for us on it as well. And it's anyway, we put a band together for a track on it called "Help the Homeless," and that track was under the name of the Screwballs because it was Jane County and Patty Paladin and JC Carroll from the Members, and you know, a whole raft of people. Marco Peroni from Adam and the Ants.
Wow.
I wanted this kind of glam Cajun track, you know, and that's how that worked out, with accordion and Marco doing the Adam and the Ants kind of glitter guitar.
Yeah.
And that was where the Screwballs came from. It was that particular thing. Yeah.
So it's just for that album.
So it was based on the back of that, really.
Yeah.
Glen and I, we worked. I mean, Glen had a band called the Philistines, and then when we went out, we did 2 albums under the name. 2 albums. Yeah, I think 2 albums as Glen Matlock and the Philistines. And that was with the great guitarist Steve New, who was in the Rich Kids with Glen, who now is just. He passed away. I don't know. It was like 15 years ago or something now. So something ridiculous. A real loss, a musical loss. Steve was, and he was a Philistine like we all were. You know? And but that goes back now. You know, that goes back to the mid-90s, I suppose. You know.
So you've been in loads of groups with Glen Matlock.
I have, yeah. I've known him for ages. Someone said to us the other day, "When did you first meet?" He asked him, you know. They said, "When did you meet Musto?" And he goes, "I think it was. I came into his record shop in 1975, and it was that long, you know, because he was in the Pistols then, you know. So I've known him since then, you know." It's an unseasonably long time. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that vinyl, so it's gonna be promoted, I
Mm.
assume. Yeah, because it's
Mm,
gonna
I
be
hope
out this
so.
later in the year.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm looking forward to that one. But
Yeah,
we're gonna
it's a
talk
really
about
good record. It's a really good record. You know, it does all the right things and the right people are on it. There's a couple of people who couldn't be on it that should have been on it, but you know, it's just organizing things. It's so difficult. And our friends in Japan, you know, I've done a lot of work in Japan over the years. You know, working on a big music festival out there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and they organised the finance for it there. So
Oh,
otherwise we could have never have found the money to do it. And of course now, of course, you know, it was recorded a while ago. Now, so this reissue is
yeah,
you know, interesting. You know,
yeah.
but
Because that's
considering a lot of people are dead who are on this record. You know, the Dolls guys, the Ramones, they're all gone. You know.
yeah, yeah. But that's the thing nowadays. I mean, albums being reissued
Mm,
because on vinyl as well,
mm.
and also like different variants with different sort of like colors and things, because
Yeah.
that's what people like to have now. They want to own these things. So yeah, that's really exciting. But I want to talk to you about this record. Wait, I don't know if you can
Oh
see it.
yeah,
Flying Padavani.
that was remarkable that you had that on you. I was like that, speechless.
Well, of course, there's a real person called Padovani. There's
Mm.
Henry
Henry
Padovani.
Padovani, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So was it him who decided to call the band the Flying Padovanis? Because there's so
Yeah,
many flying, isn't there? I was
I think
like,
so. It's like a circus group, isn't it? You know, it's like, you know, we could have been, you know, if you look on the back cover, you've got that it's like a trapeze in the sky.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like a high thing. Yeah,
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 that's right, with no one on it. And
yeah,
and that was the sort of idea, as like we're all a bunch of, you know, cosmic trapeze artists, you know. And and what we were pretty much doing. We formed that group. Oh, okay. We formed that group. You know, what year was that? So that was around about 1980, I guess.
yeah, yeah. I
You
think
know,
it's like
and
84 or
you got the
something. Yeah,
label
81.
81. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, 1981.
Well, we
And
started.
Demon
Yeah,
Records as well. Yeah, yeah.
another Demon record again. You know, we were in with them, and then um, we formed that group. Me and Henry. And I'd met Henry, you know, he'd left the police and had joined Wayne County and the Electric Chairs. You know,
Yeah.
Henry was the original guitarist in the police.
I've just found that out as well.
Oh,
So,
right. Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
know about that.
Yeah. Yeah. He was, you know, he'd come over from Corsica as, you know, he'd seen these bands like the Flaming Groovies and stuff like that. And he just
Yeah,
wanted to come to London because he liked the punk scene, and he ended up joining up with Stuart Copeland and putting the police together. And then they got Sting, and then, you know, um, it was Sting suddenly, you know, the first song I think that Sting brought to the table was Roxanne. And, you know, you know, they were struggling finding material and things like that. And then, of course, Sting comes in as a fantastic songwriter. And
yeah,
Henry then realized that Sting probably, you know, wanted more out of him than he was able to give. Let's put it like that. They got Andy Summers in, and then they were a
yeah,
four-piece for a bit, and then Henry went. And he joined Wayne County in the Electric Chairs, which is when I met him. And then made a couple of albums with what was Wayne County, now Jane County, you know.
yeah,
Yeah. And then we formed the Flying Padavanis, and I talked about the Clash auditioning drummers and exaggeration of amount of people they went through, right? We virtually auditioned every bass player we could find in London. I mean, it was crazy. We had our own rooms in South London. We had our own rehearsal room, so it wasn't costing us any more than our weekly rent to the. It was an old disused club, you know, and we went through and we were despairing, and then all of a sudden this bloke walked in, the guy called Paul Slack, who was in the UK subs, and he'd
yeah.
left the UK subs. He walked in. As soon as he walked in, he didn't have to pick up his bass. We went, here's our guy, that's it, yeah, look at him, you know. And he was this guy, little guy, all dressed in black. He had a shaved head, which was like unusual at the time in 1980. It was like it wasn't, it was unusual if being a rock and roll guy with a shaved head. And we loved that look, and he wasn't a skinhead, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, yeah,
But,
yeah.
so we he plugged in, started playing. We went, absolutely got the right man, and we formed the group.
Yeah.
And that single was effectively recorded just before Paul joined us, and that was with a bass player friend of mine called James Eller playing bass. And James now plays with Matt Johnson and
Oh wow.
and he played with Teardrop Explodes and all these people. He's quite a significant player.
Wow.
And of course the diamond in that as well is Lowell Coxhill playing saxophones, and
Yeah,
Lowell's
yeah.
Lowell was a beautiful man. He was a genius, fantastic, but jazz improviser. That
Yeah.
was his vibe. Way different area of music. And but I loved him. I've got some of Lowell's records, and they're bordering on the uneasy listening. Yeah.
No, I've actually watched an old video on YouTube of you playing at I think what's it called now, Rock Garden or something.
Yeah, we're doing Caravan, and I was
Yeah.
young.
You're all very, very young, and I get this. So it's the Flying Padavanis. I get that it's got a punk vibe, but instrumental.
Instrumental, yeah.
And yeah, there's none of this sort of like shouting that
No.
like you associate with punk.
No. We because we did some vocal numbers. The B side of that
Yeah, it's got a
single
vocal.
is a
Yeah,
French
yeah.
vocal, right? And a lot of our songs, or Henry's songs there, were French, half English, franglais. And we decided to drop the vocal stuff and just become 100% instrumental. And it was like that kind of Link Ray meets the Ventures meets Led Zeppelin, and that's how it developed. And up until just a few years ago, 4 years ago or so, we were playing shows, and mostly in France. Henry was living out to the west of Paris, and then Paul also moved to somewhere in Normandy,
Okay.
so north of Le Mans, that sort of way. And eventually he sort of became, Henry moved to Corsica, and we just haven't done anything. But we were quite a busy group. We had quite good business around us at the time.
Yeah.
But being an instrumental group, it was
Yeah.
always going to be a difficult one, because we were a good live vibe, but and we made a couple of albums.
Yeah, I was gonna say that there's not recent, but you did,
No.
like in the 2000, I think it was 2007 or 2000.
No idea. Absolutely no idea. Well, our first album was
Yeah.
that was longer ago than that. And
Yeah.
then we did an extra issue, and we added other tracks to it and things like that. And we got a guitarist from Zodiac Mind Warp, got Cobalt Stargazer involved, and he did some shows and that, and it was great. It was really, really, really fabulous. I was quite proud of our little group then. Because
So you have reformed, but you're not doing shows at the moment. But
not at the moment.
will there be any shows? Maybe
I don't know. It's a little bit of there's a little bit of work to do. Paul's turned into more of a painter, an artist.
Oh right.
So I don't know if he's picked up a bass at all. So
Yeah.
Henry being in Corsica,
Yeah.
we kind of time just shifts, and then you end up doing one thing or another thing, and I'm not sure. I couldn't say that one at all. We'd have to do a bit of work to, it wouldn't take long to rediscover where we were at. We just have to learn to play those tunes again, and they were difficult, they were really involved, some of them, and quite difficult paced instrumentals,
Yeah.
Otherwise, an instrumental sounds like a backing track, it's got to sound like its own mood and ups and downs and dynamics, and it's got this, you know what I mean? Otherwise, it just sounds like
Yeah.
something without the vocals, which we always, wanted to avoid.
Yeah, yeah. And you've got all your other groups as well, the one with Glen Matlock, of course. And
Mm.
there's another one that I've found, it's the Bermondsey Joyriders. And this is
Oh,
more a current one, isn't it?
well,
This
yeah,
is
I'm not with that kind
oh,
of.
you're not in that band anymore.
No, we stopped that. I mean, the Joyriders, right, at some stage was fantastic. It was really, really good group, right, and
Yeah,
really stylized. A three-piece,
yeah, yeah,
some of my favorite groups have always been three pieces, and we, um, yeah, we kind of just finished. I don't know. We just finished Groups of Funny Things.
okay,
They involve personalities and complexities and things like
yeah,
that. I got involved with them. They made an album called Noise and Revolution, and that was a really interesting concept album. And I worked with this is the ex-manager of the MC5, a guy called John Sinclair, who was famous for being imprisoned way back, and John Lennon got him out of prison by doing a concert he was in prison for I think he got hit for 2 joints or something, marijuana, and they put him away for 10 years or something, which was ridiculous. And anyway, John was managing the MC5 at that time, and I got him basically, all that was done, finished, I got
yeah,
him to come over to England, and I did a tour with him, picked up a band. He'd never been to England before, and he'd done this whole fantastic concept record, and we got him involved with the Bermondsey Joyriders doing a narrative. So between numbers, and he'd do it live as well. It was really good concept, and again, like a lot of really good things. Then we did another album called Flamboyant Thugs,
yeah.
and then we that was it. That was
Well,
it.
yeah, the website still says that, well, this is in quote, apparently about you, that this is the band I was born to play for. Do you still? Do you still
Well,
feel?
I mean, my in some ways, when we were really on it,
Yeah.
and it was really good. I swear to God, it was almost one of the best things I'd ever done.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because it was so watertight in its concept. The guys, Martin and Gary, would go on stage on the very first number and smash their instruments up. And it would be like this. They had smash up instruments. It wasn't like,
really?
yeah, it was a show, and they go on and we go bang, smash, and all this kind of stuff. Because people normally would smash their instruments at the end of a
At
set.
the end, yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. And people were like, what are they doing? And it was, we did that for a period of time. You can't keep playing on that.
No, you must have gone through that's quite expensive. This is all like
Yeah,
smash
well, they were all like
beginning of
MDF guitars and things, But it was loads of fun. It was a good group, but they alas no more,
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
Well, with the Glen Matlock band, is that
Yeah.
what you call it? Because it's not Glen Matlock and the Philistines. There's a
No,
different
the Philistines kind of got dropped really as a name. I don't, it has some difficult connotations these days, I suppose, as well. People could take it the wrong way. I mean, I don't know. That's their problem. It wasn't meant to be like that. Our view of the Philistine was something like, someone who was just not understanding art. It's like, what I mean is they want to put arms back on the Venus de Milo or straighten up the Leaning Tower of Pisa or something like that. That sort of Philistine.
What I say is like someone who won't listen to classical music, which is like for me, that's me.
Yeah.
the
Actually, it
first
was a
part.
funny one. I has this funny relationship with classical music because I often think that, oh, right, I really need to sit and listen to classical, and I find a lot of things I find really difficult, like jarring, and I go, wow, I thought it was meant to be relaxing. This isn't relaxing at all, you know. Okay, I do have odd moments of listening to Karl-Heinz Stockhausen and stuff like that. Well, if you really want to listen to something difficult, go and listen to Captain Beefheart's Troutmask Replica or something like
Oh,
that. And that is a challenge, and that is, a fantastic challenge. It really is.
yeah, yeah.
But
It's one of those albums that everybody knows, but
what they
it's
can't
not.
listen to because they've heard all the, you
I mean,
know,
they know the album sleeve, because I work in a record shop, and every time we have
yeah,
that album,
yeah.
it goes quickly. People
Yeah,
want
it
to buy
would. It would. It really would. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, when I had the record shop, if it gets late at night, and I wanted to clear the record shop with people, I put Troutmask Replica on, or put heroin on the Velvet Underground or something like that. Will clear the shop. Get everyone right. I can relax now. It's like, but I
What
know.
did you have? What? Where did you have your record shop? Is it in?
Piccadilly Circus. It was. I had a shop I managed. There was a chain called Harlequin, and Harlequin eventually sold out to Our Price, and
Oh, right.
we had a shop. I've just been given a cup of coffee. That's fantastic.
Oh.
Um, yeah, so they sold out to Our Price, but I did that for a couple of years and started on the slippery slope of collecting records. And yes, in this room, well, actually, they're all over the house. Really, it's thousands,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's it really. And so I'm pretty, I'm thinking about what to do with them at the moment. As to you build up this collection, and then you go, well, do I leave it? And when I've gone, my daughters are going to have to deal with it. I don't know. It's
Yeah, yeah, I know the feeling, because I'm the
yeah,
same.
yeah. And people go, "Oh, you should sell them all while you're still alive." And I go, well, "I can't really be bothered. I spent most of my life collecting them." And then they go, "Well, what are you going to do?" I say, "Well, it's someone else's problem." It's not mine.
I remember Our Price, but I've not heard of Harlequin before.
What's that? Sorry.
I've heard of Our Price,
Oh,
because
Our Price.
yeah, because
Yeah,
when I
they're a
moved to
big
Manchester,
chain. I mean,
yeah,
at that time, were Our Price, a Virgin Tower,
yeah,
and they've all gone. HMV, hanging in there by fingernails,
yeah,
really. But yeah, we all won. Harlequin were one of those. Had a quite reasonable chain. I don't know how far they extended, but it was London and suburbs, I think.
yeah, yeah.
But the one I had was in Piccadilly,
Oh.
right at the top of Leicester Square.
Can I just ask, is that the reason why you know so many of these musicians? Because I think a record shop is like a hub. Like where I work at Kingby Records in Manchester, you
Yeah,
do get some
yeah.
of the Manchester musicians, coming in, and you're like, oh my God, Johnny Marr just walked in.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what happened. I mean, we used to get Quincy Jones come in our shop, and he'd be after, like, he said, what's out, what releases, and it's soul records, and you go, really? Yeah, you're asking me what soul records are out, okay? And then he'd come in regularly, and people like, you know, Rod Temperton, Rod Temperton co-wrote the Thriller stuff.
Michael Jackson, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And
Oh my God.
he was a regular. It was like we used to, he used to come in, have a cup of tea with us, and and then he was doing Heatwave at the time, of course, with boogie nights and all.
Yeah, yeah.
And but that was it. And we used to get young, sort of the scene was quite different, I suppose, in 1975. Punk was just coming out, and we were starting to sell things like Patti Smith's, like, Horses album, and
Yeah.
then the Ramones album,
Ramones,
yeah,
and
and
yeah,
that stuff, and then eventually then the Damned's first album and things like that. And They were coming out, but mostly at that sort of time, we were getting into other stuff anyway, because
So have you
everything.
got all these in your collection?
Yeah,
Have you got all these records then in your?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I
wow.
mean, I got records in my collection going back to the 50s, so you
Gosh.
know, you know, and I think when the Clash did the London Calling exhibition at the Museum of London, which I was
Yeah.
involved in, putting that helping put that together, um, that they actually had to ask me for the first Elvis Presley album because no one had it. The one that the Clash took the lettering off for London.
Yeah.
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 So I used my original lovely English HMV copy, which I lost for about 6 months at the Museum of London. Then COVID appeared, and I couldn't get it back.
Oh, no. Were
So,
you involved in the recent Mick Jones exhibition? Were you
no,
involved in that?
Rock and Roll Public Library.
Yeah. Yeah.
His daughter Lauren does most of that with him,
Oh, I
and
see. Yeah.
yeah, did you see that?
Yes, I went to London especially for that. It's
Yeah,
absolutely amazing.
it's good, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
there
Yeah.
are all these old people like me. They're kind of, oh, I used to have that. Oh, yeah, I've still got that. And it's all these triggers of memories and things. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's absolutely amazing. But I've got one more thing to ask you: is you're a lecturer or do you teach? You teach graphics?
Yeah, well, what I do is I do guest lecturing, yeah, in design in the music business. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So that's quite a good one because I get quite a good take up because people, youngsters,
Yeah.
they think it's reasonably cool because it's not corporate, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I do that. So um, I started doing a lot of that in COVID time when it was all Zoom stuff, and then
Oh,
came out. Well, I think I did a bit before. We actually had a quite big take up and working at some of these colleges, and some of
yeah.
the sixth form, some art colleges, and I do get quite a good take up. So
Is it because
um,
they know that you're famous? That
really, no, I don't.
you're
It's a funny one. When you're doing the lecturing, you soon find out who's actually interested and who isn't. And you just focus on the kids who are really, yeah, you feel like, yeah, they really got something. And I set them some workshops and targets and things like that, which are quite entertaining. You know,
yeah.
so some of them are slightly over ambitious when you say, right, I want to create a box set based on your favorite artist, and then or last time it was like a music festival, and who would you book? And some of them were like, how much money have you got for this music festival? You just go, well, this is going to cost you about 200 billion. It's just fantastic.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Right. Well, I know I said I was, it's only going to be for an hour. I've only got just the four regular questions that I ask
yeah.
all the guests. First one is, I've seen you, of course, I've seen you, so like, I think I saw you twirl once when you were playing the drums. Do you
I,
normally, the twirl
I
sticks?
might, but I don't. I'm not a juggler.
Okay.
I might have a little moment of a sort of little bit of flamboyance, but I try to avoid that really because I think it's getting
No?
a little bit worrying. I think sometimes in drummers.
But being a drummer, though, you still have to do a bit of showmanship, don't you? I mean, I know most drummers
Yeah,
are in the back and they just want to play drums and things, but you've
yeah,
got
I
to
never like that.
engage and
I mean, look, one of the great showmen we've just lost, was Clem Burke,
oh
and
yeah, yeah,
Clem
yeah,
Clem was, lovely guy. He played with, in Glen's band in America, where so Glen can't afford to take us over there and get work papers. So Clem was Glen's American drummer,
oh
and,
yeah, yeah,
and I'm his English drummer. So we obviously have a pretty major connection. And Clem was a fantastic showman. He didn't mind. You throw a stick up in the air,
yeah. Oh
and
God, yeah,
if you don't catch it, it doesn't matter. you know, you just pick up another one, and
Yeah, yeah.
that's fun to do. But sometimes you throw a stick up in the air, you look for it, and it comes down and hits you in the eye. You know, they can kind of go wrong with that. You know,
But
I
he's
do.
really good with twirling sticks. I mean, I've watched him
Yeah,
see it. It's like, oh my god, that's just incredible.
yeah. I mean, if I tried to do that too much, I'd just lose my time completely. You know, I'd be trying to fit. You know, it would not that good at it. I can juggle balls. Yes, I can do that. Yeah, I learned that with the kids.
And juggle time as well. You're very good at juggling at
Yeah,
time.
do that.
Doing all sorts of things as well.
Yeah,
So, you mentioned Charlie Watts. It's one of your
yeah,
drumming heroes. Do you have any other drumming heroes?
yeah. I mean, I've got, you know, one of my reasons was probably Simon Kirk, who was in Free, and yeah, and he, when I was a kid, you know, my favourite drummers were people like that. You know, there was Bonham, of course. You know,
Yeah,
Bonham, massive. I mean, you know, I remember Johnny Thunders said that I was a sort of mixture of John Bonham and Jerry Nolan. You know, and he kind of loved that. You know, and he's a major influence. But a lot of my influences, playing wise, have been, you know, they're kind of. I'm just looking at my records, just trying to see what. It was, you know, Dave Mattax, who was in Fairport Convention. Oh God, you know, it's a fantastic player. You know, one of my big heroes, and you know, so it kind of, you know, Ringo, of course, you know,
yeah, yeah,
Charlie especially, because he was a sort of, I don't know, he had this ability to just, you know, just lay back on a beat, and there's a record that the Stones did after sort of punk time, Some Girls, right, and some girls. There's a live album which you may have seen, Some Girls
yeah,
Live in Texas, and
yeah,
it's just phenomenal because they've obviously had a bee in their bonnet because of punk, and they're like, just everything has got this other different edge to it. It's a fantastic record, and Charlie with Bill Wyman still in the group as well, just
yeah,
astonishing, absolutely fantastic record. Um, yeah, jazz drummers though, you know, it's Art Blakey, Elvin Jones, you know, all those sort of players, you know, Jack DeJohnette,
yeah.
you know, Mike Clark from Herbie Hancock's group, you know, there's loads of them. There's loads of people that make me want to give up.
Yeah. No, don't.
No, I try not to.
um, well, you mentioned Ringo. Do you have any opinion about Zach Starkey getting well?
No, it's something
About
weird.
the
It's
Who?
something,
So, like,
yeah, it's a weird thing. I don't know. It's something personal went down there, and you know, I've met Zach a couple of times, and you know, yeah, lovely. I had, you know, some great chats with him, and you know,
yeah,
I
he's a brilliant drummer. I love
he
Zach.
is, and he was the best drummer that the Who have had
Yeah,
since
yeah,
Keith. You know, so, and you know, yeah, you know, I think he was. Kenny Jones was great, a great drummer, but not really for the Who to me. You know, he was with the Faces. I mean, I saw the Faces a few times when I was young, and they were just brilliant. You know, I just, and Kenny Jones, perfect. But for
yeah.
the Who, I thought Zach was great. So I don't really know what happened there at all.
Yeah.
Again, weird stuff in bands. You know, it's like, you know, what goes on.
The
Someone went,
only band members who know the real
yeah,
story behind it.
yeah, and everyone else can be conjectural
Yeah,
about it or whatever. But you know, I don't really care. You know, to be
yeah.
honest, to be honest, I stopped caring about the Who a long time ago.
Oh, is
Really,
it?
to
Did
be
they come
honest.
to you? Did they come to your record shop? When
No,
this?
nah,
No.
no. I mean, you know,
Well, next question is: have you, of all these years that you've been playing drums, have you ever had any accidents or what I call drumming disasters?
yeah. What, with the drums or with my body?
Well,
I've,
I
I've never had, I've never had any equipment disasters other than, like nothing significant. But a couple of years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, I ruptured my muscle, my bicep, and I thought that was it. It really ruptured, so I had to. It's not fixable; it's just torn, and
Yeah.
um, I I had to go through 6 months of physio and with two physios and do all these kind of gym rehab things and all that sort of thing to get strength back. And I've had to work out ways of training my what's it called, triceps and deltoids to compensate for the lack of strength now in my bicep.
Yeah.
That was a fairly big disaster, and I really thought I was in so much pain.
How long ago was that? How
It
long
was
ago?
2 years ago.
Are you okay with it? You
Yeah, I
can
still.
play. You don't look like you've got some.
No, no, no. I mean, yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm okay. I'm okay. I tell you what, it really hurt. It more hurts if I'm raising.
There you go.
Okay,
We're live again. That was a disaster.
that was a
we were
strange
talking.
one.
Yeah, we were talking about drumming disasters. So it's like, but you're okay now, aren't you? You're
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I'm all right. I still had the odd sort of, bit of pain, but I kind of know how to get around it and do stretches and things like that. But yeah, I
Yeah.
had thought I only had to cancel 2 shows. I got a guy called Matt Hector to dep for me as well, who's a great drummer. So that was all that time. That was the only thing, and I just stopped doing some other stuff while I was just getting better. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're still doing the physio? You're still doing it, or regular one, or not really?
No, I'm not doing
It's
any
okay
physio.
now. Yeah.
I'm swimming. What I found is swimming, and I go swimming maybe 2 or 3 times a week,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I find sort of gentle swimming. I just joined a local gym and and do that, and I find that's really really helpful just to keep stretch. But
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and it's also
Yeah,
quite
because
good for your health.
we really have to look after ourselves. Like,
More so when you
because
get.
like the
I mean,
last years of our lives.
I've got a big birthday coming up in July, so
Yeah, I just saw that on Facebook as well when I was googling your name. I said, "Ooh, I'm gonna greet him in July." So
Yeah, that's it. I
yeah.
know. You definitely got to look after yourself when you're getting that age.
Well, last question is,
Hmm.
then we're gonna wrap it up. What would be your advice to aspiring drummers or people who want to get into the music business in general?
Yeah, it's very very interesting question, isn't it? You know, I mean, what I do online, I see loads of drummers hung up on technique, and there's always little forums up there of someone showing off about how fast their techniques and methods are, and this fill and that fill, and this bass drum pattern and this kind of thing. And I go, really, what you really should concentrate on, as a young drummer, is being able to work with people. If I started doing some of those kind of things that some of the youngsters are doing, I'd get the sack immediately. Matlock would turn around to me and say, "What the hell are you doing?" And get out of here. And I think you're lucky if you can find a like-minded bunch of people to work with, and just develop together. If you're starting playing, you develop like I did with Ben Franklin's Electric Storm Machine. You just find a bunch of people and you just get on with it. And music business is very different now. You're not just expect that you're not going to earn any money anyway. And certainly out of
Yeah,
record sales. I mean now it's I earn money by touring. So earn money by being away from home,
yeah,
and that's kind of where it is. And we sort of young people are very good at embracing the internet. So I look at stuff and I find that's there's some really inspiring stuff going on. So it's not stopping making music because you can't find the outlet, because the outlets are
usually not, there's not really money attached to it unless you happen to be very lucky or get a film sync or an ad or something like that. But my advice is just
Is it easier for them now, or to get into the music business?
I don't think so. I don't think it's ever been particularly easy. I mean, punk came along and it made a lot of things easier because you weren't so hung up on the techniques and coming out of prog rock and that kind of thing, where everyone was getting so complex. And then punk came along and it was almost like, it's almost back to old style rock and roll and the soul drummers and things like that. And they weren't, they were innovative, but they weren't overly complex. So I think as long as people can kind of write songs and great, some of the greatest songs are the simplest songs, but keep playing. That's the important thing. But it is I think it is a difficult time to actually find ways of making money in it. If you want to be poor for the rest of your life, be a drummer.
It's like what your father said, get a proper job.
Kind of. But there's loads of stuff that's interesting out there as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, it's music has kind of been the focal point in everything that I've done. Design work is working within the music and packaging, and then working on a festival and doing that, and it's all been related, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So there are ways to keep yourself occupied with music, and and it's various forms. I mean, I've just made a record with Neil, our guitarist from Glen, and it's a poetry record. So we've done that with a writer, with a girl called Nina Antonia, and she's written these poems. We put music together, and we've made this record, and it's a beautiful thing. But we've made this record not with the view of like, this is going to be a killer, we're going to sell loads of this and that. We just made it because we had to, because it was our duty almost, because the words were so fabulous and needed the music. Now we've got to try and sell it. But it's a beautiful thing. Sorry?
Get it out there.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like,
It's not all about obviously it's nice if we can get back some of our expenses, but it's not all about that. It's still keep creating. And with the internet, there's, obviously, and, streaming and that sort of thing. It's perfect in that respect, but, just keep doing that and keep being creative,
Yeah, and enjoy what you're doing as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you don't enjoy it, then do something else,
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it is tough and it's hard work, and people do think a lot of the time, some musicians get up at, midday and don't do anything and and then go out and do a gig. It really isn't like that, it really isn't like that at all, is it,
As fans, we only see the glamour side of it. We see you on stage, and then you see signing records and photographs and things like that. But we don't actually see behind the scenes. So it's hard work.
Well, it is, yeah. And you say on a tour, you've got the travel, you've got, you got to look after yourself. Certainly as you get older as well, you really need to look after yourself. And so a lot of the partying kind of drops away, for your own good.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for saying yes to us, and for guesting on our podcast. I really enjoyed that one. I've got to say to you that you're a legend. You really are. I mean, drumming, all these album sleeves and everything. That's incredible. And thank you very much. And
that's very sweet of you. I'll keep try to remind myself of that every now and again.
I hope you come to Stockport again. And then I know that Neil X is playing with from Stray Cats, from Slim Jim.
The Starcat thing. Yeah, he'll be up there. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's in August, isn't it?
yeah. So that's in Holy Diver again. So that's
Yeah,
a
that's right.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, that would be
But
good. You should go to that. There, it's good fun. It's really
yeah,
good.
yeah, and hopefully you'll come again, and
Oh yeah,
or if not Stockport, maybe you play Manchester or Liverpool or wherever, and then I'll come again. Yeah,
yeah. Well, we've played both of them before in the past, so
yeah, yeah.
we'll see. I mean, your promoter at Stockport there was really cool, and I think we could revisit there again.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Be
Yeah,
early next year, I should imagine.
yeah. Well, I look forward to that one. So
Likewise. Yeah, well, yeah.
thank you so much.
All
I
right.
really
Thank
enjoyed it.
you.
You take care and look after this shoulder. Or
Oh, I will. I'll do my best. Things happen though. It'll probably,
yeah.
you can injure yourself through nothing.
That's
Really. Just, really can. It's like I get to the stage these days. If I drop my keys on the floor, I look down at them and go, "Do I really need them?" You know.
It's all right. Well, you take care.
I will. You too.
See you soon.
Yeah.
See you again.
Bye
Bye.
now. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay. Bye.
Oh, thank you so much, Chris Musto, everybody. It was like absolutely amazing. My God, it's just unbelievable. When I was looking him up on Google and like finding out about the bands that he's played in and the things, I just thought, oh my God, he's absolutely amazing. Look on his Discogs entry, and you'll see all the album sleeves that he's done. I mean, Teletubbies, it's like incredible. But anyways, I gotta go, so I'll be back next week on Sunday. I think it's going to be at 2 o'clock next week. I'm not doing any record fair today. I'm doing a run, so I've got to really dash. And see you all again soon. As always, love music, love life, love drummers. Chris Musto, thank you so much. Absolutely amazing. And hope I'll see him again and the Glen Matlock band someday soon. Hopefully next year, early next year. But and also keep a lookout for that album that he was talking about, the reissue with an added track from the Waterboys. That sounds really amazing. So keep an eye out for that. But anyway, so that's it for me. See you all next week. Bye for now. Bye.